edition of Bet. I'm Anita. She's Erin, Dolan, and another Thursday night football game. And we are going to have all our picks and all our plays for you. But Erin, as always, we start off with the good word here on Thursday. And we are starting off on the diamond as opposed to the gridiron. And so this is what we're rolling with. I'm really curious to know what your word is here. The NL East has a plus 240 odds. Their odds to win the World Series. Now, the AL East and the NL West are both at 3-1, but the NL East is plus 240. What's your good word to that, Erin?
Well, first off, sorry, I had to pull the glasses off right before the start. I didn't even realize that I still had them on. But my good word is strike. It's now time to strike for all of these teams. You know the season is winding down. Personally, my brain is just always going to be on the NFL season and not particularly MLB. Now, if you do this by a process of elimination, you know that in the NL East, you've got the Mets and the Braves kind of dueling it out. If, let's say you go with the NL West, you still got the Dodgers there. They're a really good team, might end up winning it all. And then in the AL East, I don't really know if I trust the Yankees just yet. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of value in this market right now, but personally, it's not something I'm looking to bet into. But it really is the good word strike in the sense of these teams really need to, be striking the iron while it's hot at the right time come this postseason.
I got you. That was clever. Very clever. My word is pass. Hard pass. Why? To me, Dodgers are still king. 17.5% percentage. FPI, the Brainiacs, up there, down there, up there in Bristol, have them with a probability of winning the World Series. They get players back soon. You've got Turner, Betts, Friedman's batting .331, the best ERA in Major League Baseball as a whole at .288. And then also, let's not count out the Houston Astros with a 13.8% probability of winning the World Series. Mancini, adding him, of course, at the trade deadline, I think was huge for them. They've got a deep rotation, and they are a team that is built. They are a Yankee killer. That is how that team is assembled. So for me, it's either the Dodgers or the Astros, so I'm staying away from the NL East. Here we go. Number 2, let's talk about the game tonight, and that's Patrick Mahomes, plus 450 to win the MVP. We saw him put on a great display, a clinic last week, of course, against Arizona. Can he do it again tonight? Those MVP odds obviously will not be of such great value, but right now it's plus 450. What's your good word?
Stud. Patrick Mahomes, the man is a stud. He went 30 for 39, 360 yards, 5 touchdowns in week 1 against the Cardinals, and no interceptions in that game. The man is unbelievable. He won MVP back in 2018. But something interesting to me this morning that I found, this stat that was actually in ESPN Stats and Info channel, was Patrick Mahomes has never been a home underdog. Thursday will be his 40th career start at home, regular season and playoffs, where he is not an underdog. That is how good Patrick Mahomes is. The man is an absolute stud, although I am taking the Chargers on the money line tonight. I know we're going to get to that pick, but overall, there's really not much value in this MVP market at this point. I always like Justin Herbert, even heading into the season, and I still think there's good value on him. But right now, Mahomes at plus 450, I'd have to pass on that.
Well, my good word is value. And let's be honest, if you think Patrick Mahomes is going to win the MVP this season, chances are you put money down on him at the start of the season. So I'm looking around and trying to see where am I going to get better value, right? Like, again, Kansas City, they dominated Arizona. I think that's why you're seeing this at plus 450. But I think there's better value at Justin Herbert at 11-1. And I do believe the Chargers. You and I are both on the Chargers. Again, we're going to get to those picks a little bit later on here on Bet. But, man, if the Chargers do beat Kansas City, I think the odds in regard to the Chargers winning the division, I think the odds in regards to the MVP are going to change. So right now, I think you can get really good value on Justin Herbert at 11-1. Also, Jalen Hurts at 14-1. Also, Lamar Jackson at 15-1. So for me, the word is value, and I think there's better value out there for other quarterbacks in the NFL that I think have a just as great of a chance to win the MVP this season. Sticking with football, tonight's game, the Chargers, first drive ends in a punt, and you can get that at plus 108. What's your good word?
Ironically, my word here is value, which is basically what you just picked as your good word. So in terms of value here, I'm just thinking like of all the markets you could bet into, it's not one that I'm really interested in. The Chiefs defense isn't that good. I know they played well against the Cardinals, but the Chargers are really good, and I wouldn't bet on them to, in their first drive, go for a punt at the end of that. So personally, I'm not looking to bet it. Again, we talk this and that about value. I know value to everyone is a little bit different, but there's a million markets to bet into. It's just not one that I'm particularly interested in tonight.
And my good word is false. Why? Because it's Justin Herbert. Even though there's no Keenan Allen tonight, there's a plethora. I know you and I love that word this week of weapons for him to work with. And I do believe that he's going to be able to move this offense and score at will, at least a field goal to start his first drive. So my good word is false. I would not put a coin, a dime, a penny on that bet. Now, let's really do a deep dive into this matchup. Before we start giving you our plays, our spreads, our props, all of that, let's check in with Kansas City beat reporter Adam Teicher to get an update on what's going on with the Chiefs.
Patrick Mahomes threw for 360 yards and 5 touchdown passes in the Chiefs' season-opening win in Arizona. But this week sounded just as happy that he was able to get the ball to 9 different receivers, with 4 catching at least 1 touchdown pass. Mahomes said that type of ball distribution will make the Chiefs difficult to beat, adding that if it continues, we're going to win a lot of football games. The Chiefs will play against the Chargers without cornerback Trent McDuffie, who has a hamstring injury. The Chiefs believe they have the depth to withstand the loss of McDuffie after drafting 4 cornerbacks this year. The Chiefs will start 2 veterans at corner in L'Jarius Sneed and Rashad Fenton.
All right, Adam, thank you so much. Quick note here, and just a few minutes ago, while both Erin and I were on Daily Wager, news broke that J.C. Jackson will be active, as I like to call it, active and attractive, for the Chargers tonight. And that is going to be huge for their defense, of course, against the stud, as Erin likes to call him, Patrick Mahomes. But with that being said, Erin, let's break down this game. As we know, the Chargers, they're getting 4. The over-under is at 54. How are you playing it tonight?
So I'm going to take the Chargers on the money line in this one. They were able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs at home, same type of situation last season. So I really think they could, based on what we saw last year, they do have the capability to beat this team. On top of that, the Chargers defense was bolstered this offseason. You have Khalil Mack that's down on the team, J.C. Jackson, who's going to be able to play tonight, which is absolutely great. You add in, they already had Joey Bosa. I mean, the defense is actually really good, and on top of that, they're good at stopping the pass, which is something that will really help them against the Kansas City Chiefs offense. They also just limited a high-powered offense in the Raiders to just 19 points, which is pretty crazy to think about. So I do think that the Chargers defense will come up big. We know Keenan Allen isn't going to be playing this game, but Justin Herbert, he's a great quarterback, also has a plethora of talent that he can throw to. And just overall, another thing that I think this could come down to, we have 2 great high-powered offenses. So if they're going back and forth or dueling it out, you do have for the Chiefs, Harrison Butker is not going to be in this game whatsoever, and he's hit 90% of the time. Meanwhile, his replacement, Matt Amendola, has hit 68.4% of the time. So if it does become a shootout, things like that, or extra points are missed, that could ultimately end up helping the Chargers. So I'm just going to take them on the money line. While I know the points are enticing, I just was feeling a little bit more risky on this Thursday night football.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I'm going to play it a multitude of ways. I'm going to play the Chargers. Give me the points. Yeah, I'll take the 4. I think this is an overreaction of Keenan Allen not being active tonight, but I think people are sleeping with, again, I will use the word, the plethora of weapons that are at Justin Herbert's disposal tonight. Also, I think Butker, him being out, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think enough is being discussed in regard to if it does come down to a field goal game, especially in the fourth quarter, that's going to be a tremendous loss. And also, I like the under here for a number of reasons. This Chargers defense, they're excellent, a lot better than what Kansas City saw last week with the Arizona Cardinals. This Chargers defense, they held the Raiders to 19 points defensively with both Khalil Mack and Bosa getting after Carr. I see a lot of the same tonight with Patrick Mahomes. Also, if you look at these 2 teams, they played a much slower, methodical pace of football than they did back in 2021. Now, I know it's a small sample size. You're going to say, Anita, it's only 1 week. Granted, but I did notice that. And then, of course, with J.C. Jackson now, of course, being active, I think that's going to put a hamper into, of course, Kansas City's passing game. So, and here's a great stat for you. Thursday night games where the over-under's at 54, the under is hit 6 in 1. Out of 7 times, the under has hit 6 in 1. So another reason why I do like the under. All right, let's take a much more deeper look and dive into some of the quarterback props that are out there, right? And so, Erin, let's start with you. What are some of the quarterback props from Mahomes and Herbert that you like tonight?
So I put this play out yesterday as well on my Twitter. I like Patrick Mahomes to throw an interception. Some people were really for it and some people were really against it. Yes, he did throw an interception in week 1 against the Cardinals, but then again, he did play lights out, so I do expect a little bit of regression. Now, he threw 13 picks last season. 3 of those were against the Chargers. And on top of that, what did they do this offseason? Something I already talked about in the show. They got better on defense. On top of that, what we saw last week from the Chargers defense is they were able to snag 3 interceptions from Derek Carr. Now, I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is going to throw 3 interceptions, but at the same time, I do think this could end up being a little bit of a sloppier game than we expect. And I could see Patrick Mahomes throwing an interception just on how great the Chargers defense is at pressuring him.
I would love to play Justin Herbert over 1.5 touchdown passes. In fact, I would love to play over 2.5. I can't find it. And to lay minus 245 on over 1.5 is just too much for me, right? Like, it's just too much. So I'm looking at both run totals for both quarterbacks, and I like the over on both. Let's start with Justin Herbert first and foremost. He averages 16 rushing yards a game. And this is a Kansas City Chiefs defense. They play quarters and they also play cover 2. And what happens? It opens up the rushing lane. So I do like Herbert over 15.5 rushing yards. And for Patrick Mahomes, over 16.5. The Chargers are going to try to eliminate that high volume passing game. And they do less, I should say, they do more with less in the box. And they play like 5 DBs. And so they're going to entice the Kansas City Chiefs to run the football. And especially with Bosa and Khalil Mack chasing after Patrick Mahomes, I think he goes way beyond those rushing yards. So those are the 2 quarterback prop bets that I'm eyeing. What about some of the other prop bets, some of the other players tonight that you like the prop bets out there for, Erin?
So, of course, I forgot to add in another quarterback prop that I like. So this is the other one that I do like. And this morning actually was at 12.5. It's the same one that you like, Justin Herbert. But what I'm going to... Sorry, we have a lot of talking in my ear right now. I'm going to still go with the Justin Herbert 15.5, go over that. But earlier this morning, it was at 12.5. But again, lines are constantly changing. The reason with Justin Herbert, I mean, he hit 16 rushing yards in each of his 2 games played against the Kansas City Chiefs last season. On top of that, he hit over this in 7 of 17 games that he had played last season. I just think, considering how he's played against the Kansas City Chiefs, being able to hit over this number, Anita, you made a ton of great points. And in addition to that, he's also rushed for a touchdown in 3 of the 4 career games that he's played against the Chiefs. He's not scared to run against this defense, and it's something that I expect him to do, especially tonight, in order to get that win. So I will go with Justin Herbert over 15.5 rushing yards as well.
Okay, and that's it. Any other player props that you like before I give you my cheesecake?
No, I'm going QBs. I'm not dabbling in any of the other ones.
Okay, well, buckle up because I've got quite a few. And I'm going to start with Austin Eckler, running back, who, again, no Keenan Allen. And I think that's going to play a role into a lot of these prop bets that I'm going to tee up for you. And that's Austin Eckler, over 5.5 receptions. He went 6 for 6 for 52 yards last time he played Kansas City. Week 1, 4 for 4 for 36. He averages 26 passing routes per game last season. Kansas City, no bueno, Erin, against receiving running backs. Gave up over 60 receiving yards last week to Arizona. How about Joshua Palmer, over 46.5 receiving yards? In week 14 last year, Allen was out, and so he ended up 5 for 5, almost 80 yards and a touchdown. This is a Chargers team. They play a lot of 11 personnel, which means it's going to be him and Big Mike as the 2 main wide receivers on the field. That's going to bode well for him. Joey Bosa with a sack. Why not, man? They got to Derek Carr last week. 6 sacks, 9 QB hits. I see a lot of the same. In 3 games against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, Bosa has sacks in 2 of the 3. And last but not least, Mecole Hardman with the longest reception. Now, Tyreek Hill, as we know, he's no longer in Kansas City. He took his talents to South Beach. So now Hardman becomes the long ball threat with Patrick Mahomes. And he went long 3 times last week against Arizona for 20 yards or more, 2 of the 3 to Hardman for over 35 yards. So I'm going longest reception for Hardman at 17.5. So again, I warned you, Cheesecake Factory, hopefully they will all hit for everybody. Let's turn our attention to the hardwood. We got Eric Moody who's joining us now. We're going to talk some WNBA. As we know, the Aces, they're up on the series, the WNBA Championship 2-0. They won game 2, 85-71. And now, very interesting though, the Suns are favored here. They're favored by 1. The over-under is 160. The Suns are just looking to extend the series tonight, right? And not get swept. So with that being said, Eric, how are you playing this?
I'm still enamored because you mentioned like Cheesecake Factory, but I digress. So I do like the Aces in this game to cover the spread, and so it's a lot to unpack here. They've been so dominant in this series so far against the Connecticut Sun, but there's 2 stats that really struck out to me in game 2, which I want to walk everyone through. The first one is that the Aces actually outscored the Sun in paint points, and it's usually the other way around, where you have the Sun that usually outscores their opponents in paint points. So that was impressive. But secondly, I'm like, you've got the trio that Las Vegas has of Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, and Chelsea Gray. They've been so dominant during the regular season, and that's translated to the postseason. But what's very interesting in game 2 is that trio, they scored or assisted on 75 of the Aces, or excuse me, 76 of the Aces, 85 points in game 2. And so it's just phenomenal. Connecticut has had trouble kind of slowing that team down. They even had them in a scenario for where they were playing the way that they wanted to. Slow pace, defensive-oriented game. Then you have the Aces. They were still able to get the victories. And so history does not, I would say history is not on Connecticut's side. If you've got a team that's in a best-of-5 game series in the WNBA Finals that are up 2-0, it's happened 15 times. And all 15 times, the team that is up 2-0 has won the series. Now, I know what some people are thinking. Well, hey, Connecticut is playing at home, and they've staved off elimination before. That's true, they have. We all remember what happened with the Dallas Wings and also with the Chicago Sky. But none of those teams are at the caliber of the Aces. I'm like, they're dominant offensively, they play at a fast pace, and they're pretty good defensively. But I think they're going to have some additional motivation tonight, we'll say. This franchise has been to the finals twice. They've been swept twice. Now they're in a position in the driver's seat to control their own destiny. This is going to be a team that's highly motivated to get the victory, and Becky Hammon's going to have them ready to play. So to bring all that together, I do like the Aces to cover in this game and to get the win, and then ultimately to win their first WNBA title.
And Eric, I'm looking for a secondary play. We know this line's super close, so if you look into some of the markets, you could see if this game were to go into overtime, it's pretty juicy. Got it at plus 1450 at this point, so I'm not advocating that you go and place that bet, but is there a secondary prop bet that you like for this game?
Yeah, I would just keep things simple, Erin, and I would go with the under in this game. It's like this series has been physical. That's the way that the Sun likes to play, and the Aces have been able to hang with them. So I like the under here. I could see Game 3 being eerily similar to how Game 1 unfolded. Slow pace, physical game, defensive-oriented game, where the total will be around the same point total that was in Game 1. And one stat that's really interesting that I think really ties into betting on the under is that there have been, I'll say over the last, I would say the last 10 games. The last 10 games where the Aces have had just one day off between games. The under is actually 8-2 in those games. And so both teams are going to be excited. You know, one staving off elimination, the other's trying to win a title. So it is going to be a slugfest. Again, eerily similar like the Game 1. But I just like the under in this game. I just don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But as I mentioned before, I do see the Aces prevailing tonight.
Eric, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us here on Bet. Erin, let's come back to you. I know you've got a play in this matchup as well. Who do you like?
Yeah, so I know Eric is liking the under, and I feel like that's a really popular play, but I'm going to go with the contrary here and take over 160 points. Reason being is, yes, you could argue that it's going to be a slower paced game. You got the Aces who have actually shown up this series and been playing defense, but I think this game ultimately is going to be sloppy, and you might actually see a ton of points put up because of the defense being so sloppy. The Aces know what they're playing for at this point. They're getting closer and closer to that. I think that their offensive output continues. I mean, last game, they were great. You got Wilson, Gray, and Plum. They combined for 67 points, 51.6% shooting from the floor. So we know what they have. We know that they have it in them in terms of their offensive firepower. So I wouldn't be surprised if they put up a ton of points tonight. The Connecticut Sun were also able to put up some points. So I'm going to go with the over 160 for this matchup.
Great stuff from you and Eric. Let's turn our attention to some college football, and not an exciting slate. We've got two matchups that we're going to discuss with you. The first is Michigan State going up against Washington. You've got the line is 3.5, and the over/under is at 56.5. Of course, Washington, the Huskies are favored. What's your play here?
I feel like if I was going to play this, I would lean towards the under here. All right, so you got Michigan State coach Mel Tucker. I mean, he's utilized that transfer portal, and it's been really great for him. They're 2-0 to start the season, and something that I found was that linebacker Jacoby Widman actually leads all the college football players right now in the college football. 5.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles. So both defenses are actually really good. So when you see that in college football, you just got to rock with the under. So again, I'm going to go under for this one.
I'm actually going to take Michigan State with the points, please, against the Huskies. Also, I've got a prop bet here. Quarterback for the Huskies, Penix, over his passing total, 272.5. Why? Former Indiana quarterback, part of that transfer portal that we all like to talk about, and knows this Michigan State defense extremely well. And they're going to be without a safety. And he's got a ton of weapons to work with. Meanwhile, so I do like his over total in passing yards. I think he's going to have a big day. However, Michigan State, 2 excellent running backs. So I do believe that they're going to control the clock. Huskies, not so great against the run. They allow over 3 yards per carry. And you talked about Jacoby Widman. That team now has 12 sacks on the season. They lead all college team in sacks. So I think this is going to be a competitive game. I think it's going to come down to the wire. So give me Michigan State in the points, and give me Penix, of course, with the over passing yards. The other game we're going to break down, the U, baby. That's where I'm from. My dad played at the U. Love watching them. They're going up against Texas A&M. Texas A&M is favored by 5.5. The over/under is at 44.5. This is a must-win game for Jimbo. What's your play here, Erin?
It's a must-win game, but I have to take the points with Miami in this one. I mean, they just lost to Appalachian State. I mean, you expect me to trust anything coming off that? I mean, just they all around don't have what they used to have in terms of their offense or defense. It just looks like a nightmare. They might have a different starting quarterback in this game, so how am I going to trust that? And look, Miami, heading into the season, I was really hype on them, and I really liked them. But at the same time, we have seen some flaws in terms of their offense and their defense. This is obviously, like you said, a must-win for Jimbo Fisher. But at the same time, I mean, it feels like the season might end up being a wash for them after. I mean, how do you lose to Appalachian State and then you want me to back you the next week? It's just not going to happen. I have to take Miami with the points in this one.
I like it, and I probably am going to take Miami, every now and then. You do bet with your heart. At least I will. And I do like Van Dyke, by the way. I think he has quarterback for Miami. I think he has a good game against them. But more than anything, I like the under here. Listen, the Canes have won 2 games, but who have they played? Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss. They do have a great defense, and as we said, Texas A&M, question marks in regards to their quarterback, Haynes King. What type of leash is he going to be on? Will he be pulled? Will we see Max Johnson? They're going to be like rotating quarterbacks there again against a good Miami Canes defense. So I like the under here at 44.5. That's how I'm playing it. So, all right, before we do end, let's talk about some of the other games of week 2 in the NFL season and what we're eyeing right now on Thursday night that we want to jump on. And I'll start here, Erin. First and foremost, I'm all over the Saints at +2.5, going up against Tom Brady and the Bucs. Now, this is really interesting. Now, as we know, the Saints have not lost to the Bucs and Tom Brady in the regular season. And if they win on Sunday, they will be the only team in the NFL with a winning record against Tom Brady, assuming that, of course, he's going to retire after the season. Talk about motivation. On top of that, the Bucs, their offensive line, their wide receivers, no bueno. I think as we get closer and reports are that certain players aren't going to play, I think this line is going to fall. So jump on the Saints right now at +2.5. The other game I like is Carolina getting 2 against the Giants. The Giants lost DB Aaron Robinson to an appendectomy. No bueno, again, going up against DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Those 2 wide receivers are going to put up a lot of points and a lot of yards against this Giants secondary. And C-Mac going against a subpar linebacking corps. So I really like Carolina with the points. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if this jumps down to -1 or a pick 'em at kickoff. So I would jump on it now. And last but not least, I'm all over the Packers, -10 against the Bears. And jump on this before it jumps up to -10.5. Aaron Rodgers, Week 2 is 4-0 after a loss in Week 1. He has self-proclaimed himself the Bears owner, and he's supposed to get Alan Lazard back this week. So those are the three games that I'm eyeing right now that I'm saying jump on now, because I do believe these lines are going to change as we get closer to kickoff on Sunday. What about you?
All right, so before I let you go, I'm going to point out a line that maybe is a little. I'm not saying it's something I'm looking to bet right this second, but something to keep your eye on. Obviously, there's a lot of double-digit favorites, or you could say double-digit dogs this week, and one of them is the Titans against the Bills. Everybody probably expects the Bills to roll this team, especially after what we saw in Week 1 from the Titans. What we saw Week 1 with the Bills facing off against the Rams, they absolutely blew them out. They are the best team in the National Football League, I believe, personally, on offense and defense. But at the same time, I have this weird feeling that the Tennessee Titans might be able to cover this number. All day it's been bouncing around from 9.5 to 10, 9.5 to 10. And honestly, the Bills should be, it feels like a 14-point favorite in this one. So for me personally, I think the Titans, maybe they have a bounce back game. So it's something I'm keeping my eye on, seeing how this line changes over the next few days or so. But just one to point out, obviously, because now we are having, after Week 1, a little bit of overreactions, a little bit of, I'm sure, underreactions on some of these teams, and seeing some of these double-digit dogs.
Should I use the word shocked? I mean, after what we saw the Bills do against the Rams on Thursday night, now they've got extra rest, and a Tennessee Titans team.
Look, the Bills lost to them last season. Don't forget, the Bills lost to them, and the Bills had a lot of head scratchers. Remember, they lost to the Jags, and they went 3-5 in that 8-game stretch. Sometimes the Bills, they might be really hot and really high off this Thursday night football win, and they have you could argue the extra days of rest, but. Rest versus rust. I don't know. I have a feeling about it. I could be wrong.
Little bottle of wine, or maybe a big bottle of wine.
I feel like you owe me some from last NBA season.
I do. So I'm trying to recoup. I'm trying to reclaim. That's what I'm doing. By the way, it's great that you mentioned the Bills and the Tennessee Titans, because guess what? You'll be able to watch that right here on ESPN, ESPN2. The kicks off at 7:15. How about that? We got a doubleheader on Monday night. So 7:15, you've got the Titans going up against the Bills. And then at 8:30, you've got, of course, the Vikings going up against the Eagles. Man, I can't wait for that Vikings Eagles team. These are 2 teams, Erin, that I picked both to win their division. So I haven't done a deep dive into this matchup yet. I think they're both excellent. So we'll see what happens there. I know your Eagles, you love your Eagles. You're going to be cheering them on, and rightfully so. Erin, so great doing the show with you each and every Thursday. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the games tonight. Again, just a reminder, both Erin and I are all over the Chargers. I'll take the points. Erin likes them on the money line. Enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully we helped everybody win a little bit of money.